Mike McCool here in the Royal Examiner Studio, and with me today is Andrea Lo. Andrea is running for the Warren County School Board in the Fork District. She is on the ballot, and she's an educator. She currently works at North Fairfax Community College, and so she's been in education for about 10 years. So this is the question we ask everybody. Why in the world do you want to be on the school board?
Well, it's a good question. And this is actually something I've been thinking about doing for several years. I started attending school board meetings back in 2017. At that time, my husband and I were getting ready to enroll our oldest daughter at Ressie Jeffries Elementary. And we had been living in the community for about 3 years then. And honestly, we had heard some negative things about Ressie from some people. We had heard, oh, there's behavior issues and this and that. And we looked into it a little bit more, and we saw that at that time, Ressie wasn't accredited. So we were a little concerned. But like you said, I have a career in education. I've been working in higher ed for about 10 years. I taught high school before that. I have a master's degree in education. So I just kind of figured, well, let me go in and find out. Like, is this true?
Sure.
Get to the bottom of it. So I took a tour of Ressie. I talked to the administrators. I talked to teachers and staff there. And I asked them about, what's your grading policy and attendance, homework, all those kind of things. What are your test scores like? I asked to see a copy of their plan to get accredited, which they had, and they provided, and I read through that and asked questions. I talked to some other people I knew in the community that were teachers and social workers, but not at Ressie, to kind of get their feel for it. I started attending school board meetings, looked into the agenda items, all that. And at the end of the day, after looking at all that, I kind of found, I found a staff that cared about their students and were working really hard. They had a plan. They had put best practices in place to address those things, to address the test scores, attendance. And it was a school that had had some struggles, but was, I thought, moving past them. And I actually felt really good about the school by the time I got to the end of that. We enrolled our daughter there. She had a great year. And that same year that our daughter started, they regained their accreditation.
It was all her fault.
She's a great student. So that's really why I decided to run, because I know that all parents have that same concern that we had, if you hear those things.
Sure.
But not all parents have that background and that knowledge to be able to kind of look into it and feel confident they know what they're getting. So I really wanted to run for school board to make sure that our schools are providing a good education, not just for my kids, but for all the students here.
It makes a difference because it's really, those are our employees of the future.
Yeah.
And the school systems need to be turning out a good product. I mean, I hate to put it that simple, but that's really what they have, is they're creating a product for the future of our community and throughout our country. I mean, and, Warren County Public Schools has produced a lot of, brain surgeons and Indian chiefs and CEOs and pharmacists and doctors and trash collectors. So
Absolutely.
they've pretty much filled the gamut. And you're right, though, it takes a lot of input from the parents to make sure that things get done, because it's as a teacher, you well know that it's not always as easy as.
It's not easy at all. Teaching is not easy.
All it takes is like one kid with a little behavior problem to kind of, it's the old urgent gets in the way of the important, and you're doing a lot of things. So what kind of things are you looking at as far as what issues, that the school board has been, that you think will be addressed in the future that really concern you?
So one of the things that I really would like to see would be better communication between the school system and parents and families. In my experience as a parent, I think a lot of our teachers, our individual teachers, are doing a great job of keeping up with parents. There's Class Dojo, and some have Facebook pages and email. And
they got this app on your phone,
Exactly. So you see stuff like every day. I go in there and say, "Oh, is she?
Right.
she get a demerit? She get a good star?"
And she says, "Mom, how do you know what I did?"
Yeah. Were you paying attention at the beginning of school? Because I got a down mark. So a lot of the teachers are doing a great job. But as far as like big overall stuff, the stuff that the school board's deciding or the superintendent level, I think those things have not always been communicated as clearly or as promptly as they could be. I know the school board does a lot, or not the school board, the school system will use those robocalls to get to people, and that's one way, but
Sure.
it would be nice to have it also written somewhere that they can refer to. So that's something I would like to see an improvement in, is just that communication and making sure that, there's also when there are opportunities for parents to give input, which there often are, make sure those are publicized, that everybody hears about them, and it's not just if you didn't listen to the one call, you might have missed it. So I would like to see that improve. Another area that I think we could address is teacher satisfaction. So Being able to attract and retain the best teachers is really going to have a huge impact on learning. Better teachers get better results. And there's a lot of things that we can do, in my experience as a manager at Lord Fairfax, there's a lot of things we could do that don't necessarily even cost money. When they've done research on job satisfaction, salary is usually not the top
It's
thing.
not the top. I always tell people pay is not always the top.
It's not.
It's
It's
the
important.
easiest to address because
It's the quickest, yeah.
It's the quickest,
But
yeah.
it's also the most expensive,
It's also,
right?
but people say it's the pay when reality, because they don't really want to get into the weeds of really what the real problem is.
Right.
And typically it's a relationship problem somewhere.
Right.
Or a transparency problem or some sort of communications
You wanna
breaks
have-
down.
You want to have control over how you do your job. You want to be
Sure.
able to, see that there's this problem and address it, and your principal listens to you, and
Right.
maybe
They got
those
the
things are
support you
happening.
need, yeah.
Right, but we need to make sure that we're emphasizing that because, especially the teachers who live here, they don't want to drive to Manassas every day and back.
You can't pay people enough to do that, but
Right?
they do it because they have to.
Right, or because they're not satisfied in their job. So
Exactly.
I think that's something else that we really need to
Yeah,
look at.
So instead of this, because I told you so, which is what we tell our kids, right?
Right.
But we really don't want to hear that ourselves.
No, and our kids don't want to hear it either.
But they get it. They get
Yeah,
it. So it sounds like you've got a lot of things that you're going to be addressing. We're still kind of early in the election campaign. Early voting does start September 17th. So Andrea's got her signs.
Friday.
You'll see them going up around the community. She's going to be knocking doors and giving opportunity to speak to the voter. And be sure you take advantage of that because the school board's important. It's kind of one of those areas that kind of gets forgotten. The elections are, every 4 years. And this year we're having typically only would be 2 people, but because of the special election, we're going to have 3 new school boards. So the whole school board flavor, so to speak, is going to change. And just by having 3 new people, 3 out of 5, is going to make a new majority.
Right.
And so, good or bad, so it's important to elect the people that we think are going to do the best job for our school system. So I give credit to the Dr. Ballinger. I think he's putting together a good team. It's hard. He came in the middle of just when COVID started. And that's bad for anyone. But it's taken him some time to get through that. And I talked to him, and he said, well, he's trying to get his team together, and it sounds, he's done that over this summer. He's moved some people around, and we'll see how that works out. But I've talked to him. It's just like most people; they really want to do what's best, but sometimes their hands are handcuffed by state regulations and these policies and procedures that are coming down from high. Any of those policies kind of give you a little irritation?
Well, it's hard to really say, and I think recently there's been a lot of stuff that is kind of just like right now in this moment,
Right.
and so. I hesitate to get too into that because even if I'm elected, I won't even start till January. And then, like you said,
And
it's
it's
4
gonna change.
years. And are we still going to be talking about this, even 2 years from now?
Right. And that's
Hopefully
what I've told.
not.
That's what I've told some of the other candidates. We really don't want to get into some of these issues because one, we want to get closer to the things are changing already. It's being very fluid. With between now and October 1st, we're going to see some changes. And you're right. We hope that a lot of these issues will again disappear. We kind of were hoping that, and they
Right.
kind of did, and then they surged back. So I think we're going to see some changes, and we've also seen things in our local, some neighboring county school board meetings here lately have been a little, over the top.
Sure.
So there's issues out there that have been mandated that people are really upset about, and so that'll be something that the school board will have to address and see how much pushback we're going to have. But you're right. Between now and January, a lot of things can happen. Mm-hmm. And as I tell candidates, I said, when you're on the other side of the seat and you have more information to make decisions on, then we'll come back and talk to you and see what.
Right. Yeah, and who, like you said, who knows what the situation will be like even a few months from now. So
That's right.
it's hard to say.
But if you're transparent with people, you're communicating with people, and I think that's important.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the reason that we have an elected school board, so that we can be responsive to the people in the community,
Right.
so they can talk to us and we talk to them and represent their needs. So that's
And if
the
they
whole
don't
point.
do a good job, you vote them out.
That's
That's
right.
how it works.
Yeah.
People say, oh, what kind of system? We have a great system. If you don't like them, get rid of them.
Yeah.
You don't have to vote for them just because they've been in there forever.
Right.
And in fact, that's something probably been in there too long. Maybe it's time for a change,
Sure. Yeah.
And we're given that opportunity. 3 new school board members
Yeah, we're
this
going to
year.
get change.
We're going to get change whether we like it or not.
Right,
So
right.
it's great. I'm glad people like you are running. It's always good to see members of the community come forth and take an interest in what happens, because this is what really molds our community, is our school system.
Yeah.
I mean, we have great buildings now. I mean, we went when you mentioned Ressie Jeffrey, when my kid went there, there was no air conditioning. It was the poorest school, and it kind of like it got the hand-me-downs, and that's the history of that school.
It looks great now.
But it's great now, and I've talked to the principal when we did the 5th grade graduation last year. The teachers are all pumped. You can tell
It's exciting.
the staff
Yeah.
is excited about
is.
school, and that they really care. I mean, we'll give our teachers a lot of credit, because it's a tough job. And
It is. And this last year and a half, very tough.
my daughter's
especially.
a school teacher, and my son-in-law, and she finished her master's, and guess what? The next week's, and it was in remote learning. And guess what?
Well,
The
that's
next
lucky.
week they said, we're going to have remote learning. She said, oh, well, I did that.
I hope she learned how to do it in one
Yeah,
day.
exactly, yeah. So, education's going to change.
Yeah.
And we just have to embrace it. And I think going forward, it'll be a great thing, and we'll adapt, and we're going to hold the school board members, and we're going to keep an eye on you. And
Absolutely.
Making sure you did it. We'll have you back here next month after you knocked on a whole bunch of doors, and we'll see what the public has told you. How's
Sure.
that?
Yeah, that'd be
Thanks,
great.
Andrea.
I
Appreciate
appreciate
it. All right. Remember, it's early voting starts September 17th, which is like right around the corner. You can vote early. I would normally say vote often, but we don't do that anymore. And so vote early. It's great. School board's up. We got board of supervisors. We have a town council, a race. We have a lieutenant governor, attorney general, and a governor. So a lot of important things on this ballot. So there's still time to get registered. If you're not a registered voter, please do get there and vote, and watch all these Meet the Candidates series, because you really will get to meet the candidates. And then when they come knocking on your door, ask them questions.
Yeah,
All right.
absolutely.
Thanks again. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.